program tonight. And we are recording this program since I just heard the sound. We're going to record the program, but then when we get to the question and answer portion, we're going to quit recording because we want people to be able to ask whatever questions you want without worrying that it's going to be recorded for, and posted on YouTube. So we'll let everybody know before we get there. But just wanted to know, we want this to be a safe space. We know that there are issues and questions that people have about being women on a job site and all this. And also, we just want you to feel safe and be not afraid to ask any questions that you want. We have some great panelists and they can offer some really good advice. So before we start the program, I would like to introduce Meg Coffey, who is here, and let her say a couple words. Meg.
Hi, thanks, Carol. Hi, everyone. I'm Meg Coffey, AWA+D president. And I just wanted to welcome everyone and especially welcome any new members that we might have. Thank you, Carol, for putting this on. Thank you also to our annual sponsors that I know Louis Polson is one of, and I know that they are here, so I especially want to thank them. And with that, we'll go and launch into the program.
Well, oh, and I also want to say that I know that it's not on our slide, but this program is being also sponsored by one of our sponsors, Shoe Gooding. So please make sure to thank them if you enjoy this. Well, even if you don't, still thank them for being sponsors. Anyway, so without further ado, I am going to turn this over to our panel and our moderator, and we'll get this show started. So Jen, you want to start us off?
Yeah, sure. Hi, I'm Jen, and I'm an associate, as you can tell from the screen, from Co-Architects, and also one of this year's co-chairs for the AIA-LA Women in Architecture Committee. So I guess as I relate to this topic is I'm currently working on a project in construction that I started in the SD phase. So we're using this time as an opportunity to allow our speakers to speak about their advice that they want to share with you all about working on a construction project or on a construction site. And afterwards, as Carol has mentioned, we'll have an opportunity for questions and answers. I think the best way to moderate or kind of keep track of the questions is to either raise your hand through the raise hand option, or to provide your questions in the chat box, and then we could go one by one. And you may be a little nervous at first or shy at first, so just take your time coming up with the questions, and hopefully we'll be able to answer all of them. I think this will be a good opportunity now for each of the panelists to say a little bit about themselves before we go into the presentation.
Sure, I can start. My name is Jennifer Swedell, and I'm really excited to be in such great company here tonight. And I come at things a little bit differently. I'm a laboratory architect. I've been doing lab planning for the last 15, 16 years. So my site visits are very much around looking at that portion of a building. And when I say a lab planner, I do things like advanced research labs for academia, for research and development, running the gamut from chemistry to aerospace to physics to genetics. Any type of lab you can think of, I've done. So my construction experience has brought me to many different sites around the country, and I'm excited to share those experiences with you tonight.
Well, I will go next. So I'm Carol Lanham. I am principal at Lionakis, getting ready to relocate from LA to Newport Beach. Also the director of mentorship for AWA+D. And so I want to thank all of our panelists and the moderator for agreeing to do this. This is a program that was put together for AIA-LA's Women in Architecture Committee. And all of the panelists, it was great. And everybody agreed to sort of recreate it for AWA+D. So thank you, everybody. I am very excited. This is a great topic because I think that we're such, it's just construction. I mean, being an architect, being a woman in architecture is hard enough. It's male dominated, but being on the construction site is just a whole another dimension. And so this is going to be some great advice, and we've got some really great panelists, and I'm really looking forward to the presentation. So thank you.
Well, good evening, everyone. I just wanted to, again, give my thanks to the association for just allowing me to be a part of this again. We did have a great time at our last panel. My name is Alison Dorsey, and I'm the Chief Construction Officer at the Flyfisher Group. You may ask what that entails. Well, I am a part of all our developments for the different towns nationwide. So that's great. For our actual projects that we have on site within the communities, I meet with the general contractors and get not only the construction on-site part together, but also engage with community. We did a great community drive for women and low-income housing. So I try to tie like as much as I can all together. So we're not only building buildings, but we're help building lives. So that makes me excited. I had 15 years of experience from high-end to commercial from Southern California. And I'm a recent transplant to the Denver, Colorado area, which I'm excited about. So I hope you guys enjoy what we're going to present to you, and please, please ask great questions. Well, so knowing your worth. Know your worth. It is important to remember as women, our perspective is important. Multitasking, which I'm sure we all do, effectively in high pressure situations is pretty much natural for all of us. When you're on site, use that same knowledge, that same experience, those same tactics, because you complete the team. So just remember that. Women shouldn't try to be like men. Dedicate time to yourself, to work hard, and maintaining internal balance to your life. Improving your relationships with your partners, with your children, and with your friends. Live the greatness that is within you, and it'll radiate out of you. Be the woman that you are, because no one can be a better you than you. Keep your composure. Now, as we all know, in construction, the workplace is stressful and often reported as a key cause of adverse reactions, as we all know. And if you don't know, you'll get to know as we go on. Detrimental to health and performance. Factors that contribute to workplace stress are the following: a toxic work environment, negative overload, work overload, rule ambiguity, lack of autonomy, bullying and harassment, career development barriers. Women suffer stress in different ways than men because their response to stress is different. Women have a very different hormonal system, which we can all attest to. Our system, which can become more exhausted on an emotional level. Women are exposed to more stressed factors as often because they assume many roles on their day-to-day lives. So as we know, women, we can take on a lot, but we have to be careful while we're doing that on site.
So one of the things that I think it's important to remember is that as the architect, you show up at the job site, but your job isn't to try and tell anybody how to do anything. So I think it's important, and it's a lesson to learn early, is that when you show up at the job site, you don't have to say anything to anybody. You are just there to observe what's going on and not solve any problems right there. So I think that it's important to just remember that and try and not get stressed out about, because what will happen when you arrive on the job site is a whole bunch of people might come up. It's like, hey, you do this way. Hey, you do this way. What do you want me to do? It's not working out. Is to just like take a couple breaths and step back and just realize that this is not, the job site is not the time to answer those questions. You can take a breath. Nobody needs an answer right then. You need to, help develop solutions and let people ask questions, but realize that official answers can wait until after you get back to the office, after you have a chance to investigate what's going on. And so I just say, practice saying this, like, hey, that's a really great question. It's important. So let me look when I get back to the office or back to my desk or back whenever. And please send me an RFI or a question or a request or whatever, so I can send a formal reply. I think the thing that often no one teaches you, and I didn't learn this until I was much later in my career, but once the contractor comes onto the job, the drawings and the specifications become part of the legal contract to do the work. So they're part of a legal contract, and there is a method and a process to make changes to that. And that process should be followed. End of story. I mean, so just try not to let anybody intimidate you into giving an answer on the site. You don't have to answer. They can wait. And oftentimes, and I've told this story, that one of the very first jobs that I ever went onto the site, I didn't say anything. I was just like looking around and I was looking at something, and the subcontractors came up and they're like, don't worry about that. We're going to fix that thing. I promise, like, we're going to make that be better. And it's like, I didn't even know at the time. It's like, I was just looking at it. I didn't know that they thought that they had done something wrong. So a lot of times silence is your best friend, and just try to, again, keep your composure and try not to hurry to give an answer because you somehow are made to feel like you have to tell somebody what to do. You don't have to. You just need to just look and see and just be there. So I just think that, and that's a hard lesson to learn.
So part of navigating the job site is looking like you belong there. And I'm 5'4" and not a big person. So I quickly found, and it took me a while to figure this out, that I look like I'm 10 years old in a safety vest that you get from, any old store. I mean, they're really designed for, the average, 6 foot guy who's 200 pounds. So plan ahead, go online, there's specialty sites that offer vests that are sized for women. Go and get one, or if you do have to buy one of those one size fits all, get your sewing kit out and your scissors and start modifying it. So that's first step. And then secondly, when you get your hard hat, and this is just never use the PPE that's on site, because then you'll be in this whole situation. Buy all of your own PPE, invest in it. If your company won't purchase it for you, which they should, just take the plunge and get it for yourself. But with helmets, I've even written on my helmets with a Sharpie, but write your company name, your job title, and that also helps with getting some semblance of respect when you're on the job site. They're not going to ask, who are you? What are you doing here? They know right away that you're with the design team. And then there's also tools to definitely bring along, depending on what phase in construction you're visiting. I always try and carry some sort of flashlight or a miner's light on my helmet. Now we have these iPads, so I went and invested in a hard case for my iPad, so drop it on site. And then the other thing is the measuring tapes. Don't bring the one that comes in your home repair kit. Go buy the 25 foot, almost 2 inch wide tape that you
Yeah.
can use to really measure stuff that's overhead if you're trying to, check a ceiling height or that kind of thing. And then I've noticed that some sites do also ask for things like gloves and glasses. Some don't, but that's another good thing to have with you. And then the last piece is, unless you're going to a finished site, have some really good footwear, even steel-toed, if you're willing to wear those, and try and make them look like you haven't put them on for the first time. And throw some mud on them, take a screwdriver and scuff them up. And just doing all this, I think, if whether it's your first time at a job site or whether you've been going for a while, I just freshened up my PPE, and you just feel like you're more ready once you have all this stuff. The other reason is that the stuff that they have at the job site is smelly. Although nowadays, with COVID, they have everything new and in plastic, but then I think of that as a waste. You're wasting it each time you're going there. So my 2 cents.
And yeah, because I want to add, I think that the biggest issue, and this is just the thing, is the hard hat with your company's name on it. And you need to have, I really think it's like going out to the job site most of the time. You borrow the contractors or you show up without a hard hat, you always end up with something that doesn't identify your firm. And I think your firm should invest in a hat that has you identified, and that just really, I can't stress, I agree with Jennifer. It just is something that that's a big deal. My 2 cents.
Thanks.
Agreed. I agree.
Yeah.
So being that we've identified, we know what we're doing, we're confident, and we're geared up. So now you have a different take on you stepping out on that job site, right? Confidence is key. Knowing what you're there to do, right? And believing in yourself is key. Often women believe their own ideas are not worthy if they're not perfect, thought out, and fully planned. Now, if you've ever been on a job site, construction is the most chaotic, organized career I think that anyone can choose. Women are more likely to underestimate their abilities because we're in this male-dominant world and atmosphere. All evidence that they're overqualified or over-repaired. So you're going on the site. We did have a comment on our last panel, and the lady, she was so enthusiastic about asking a question, and she said, well, shouldn't the superintendent and project manager meet with me when I come on the site? Now, there's a lot of things that take place on a job site. Calling in advance or having a schedule set up to meet with your superintendent or project team would be great. However, there are mornings where things don't go as planned, as we all know. So always keep that in consideration and in mind. So be confident, but also be flexible and know that your position on that project is important. Developing confidence is a process through work and experience, and can strengthen your belief that you bring value to the table. Don't hesitate to throw out an idea there. It might just be the one that the team needs. So when you do speak, as Carol pointed out, you speak with confidence and you bring something to the table that maybe is missing.
So I think it's important that we are we're all trailblazers in this industry. You can see the statistics that hardly anybody on the job site is going to be a woman, and hardly anybody in at a construction company is a woman. I mean, there's more people in architectural firms that are women, but really we're still very much in the minority. So it's important to help other women in your firm and share your experience and help them also figure out how to act, how to be an architect how to be on the job site. And I know that this is some of these statistics are something that Alison had gathered, but some of the things that female leaders are doing to transform our field are trying to change company standards. And I think that we've witnessed that in our own firms, mentoring other women. It's really important. I think that I think in our first slide, we talked about you should not try and act like a man, but trying is like, what does that mean? It's like, how do you act like a woman? And so it's having somebody to emulate is important. And I think you don't realize how much of a leader you are once you start to get a little bit more experience. And so just remember that people are looking up to you, and try and inspire people that and again, inspiring the new generation and trying to all of this increases the bottom line. I think we all sort of sometimes forget that everybody has a voice, and that all people can contribute to the profitability of everybody, because nobody is going to be in this business unless you're making money, and that's not a bad thing. And so just more voices and all of the diversity that we can bring to this field can just increase the bottom line for everybody. And I don't know if Alison and Jennifer have anything to add to this before I move to the next slide. Just kind of like.
Well, I mean, even what we're doing right now is an example of our shared experience. And I think that each one can teach one, right? And that's key. I think if we're always open to a mindset of learning and educating, we can all advance. But the moment that we stop and think, okay, I know everything I need to know here and don't have to progress, is when I believe that number won't grow. We need to do something with that 9%, ladies. Yeah. So talk to your nieces, talk to people that you know, anywhere you can, any speaking engagements, and encouragement is key. Because when you see someone like you doing something that you're not sure that you can do, people usually take to that and try to get it done.
Great, agreed. So I think that this slide, I mean, I think it goes with the last slide. You need to help other women in this profession, and I think that a lot of times, and this is just my personal story. I think that we forget about construction administration, and everybody got into architecture because you wanted to design buildings and you wanted to work on buildings and do all of that stuff. And I think that you have the idea and working on, solving the problems and putting the drawings together, and everything is what you learn how to do in school, and you learn how to do that. And what nobody tells you in school and what you don't learn is that construction administration is really hard. And it is where everything gets done. Yes. But it is also the most difficult part of the project, because everybody's calling you all the time, and nobody is ever calling you because they think that you did a good job. Everybody is always calling because there's a problem, there is an inconsistency, there is a question that needs to be answered. And so it's very easy to lose sight of the fact that you did a good job, and it's easy to try. It's just a hard thing because no one ever calls you unless there's a problem. And so I think that it's important that you, especially during CA, and I know Jennifer and Alison will agree, you have to step back and just think to yourself, look, in spite of all of these things that went wrong, we've got some issues. Look at all of the things that we did that were right. And I think that that's an important message to pass along to the team as well. And like, let's not focus on all of these things, because really, if I missed a couple dimensions on this sheet, like look at all the thousands of things that I actually did right. You have to sort of put that stuff in perspective. And so I think it's important to reinforce to the teams and to everybody that they are valuable, that they did a good job, and that construction administration is always just a hard phase, because it's just always problems. Again, I wish Jennifer or Alison, if anybody had ever called a contractor, never calls and say, oh my God, I cannot believe how great that detail was. It went in like perfectly. We didn't have any problems. It's like you never get those calls. And so I think you just have to just be ready to help and support people and help the team and support the other women in your office. So I'm going to quit talking about that and let you guys add on.
I mean, I think the other tough thing is that when you're in CA, you're kind of the closer of the project for your office. You're the last contact that, that construction team, that the owner and everyone else is going to have with your company. So there's, pressure there too. And so however you leave them feeling after substantial completion and the final punch and all the closeout and record documents and whatnot, that's the last impression. So.
Well, at my prior company, our boss would always say, and that was it's GC firm that I was in Malibu, would say, if you have a great project and you have a terrible closing, it's like having a bad dessert at a restaurant and you only remember the bad dessert, right? So to Carol and Jennifer's point, yes, closing is important. But what I've noticed now, and like being in development nationwide and through different cities, I'm seeing a lot of women who are actually either the contractors, or they're actually like doing labor on site. So when I saw that, I was like, okay, because I'm thinking of the great organizer in the trailer, right? But they're literally on site now. There's a lot of women who own and partner up with the Andy Gump or a dumpster company, and they're working in that capacity. So I've made it a point, as I'm walking, depending on, as Jen pointed out, a finished house or a full-on construction site, where I'm acknowledging them. And I think acknowledging them is a form of empowerment. You want to see on the site, if you see a woman and she is doing some sort of scope of work, that falls into cleaning or falls into glazing or falls into anything outside of what we would normally see, I think that we should acknowledge that and help them to see that as we're on this side, the development side, the architect side, the engineer side, that we salute you and we're here for you. So that's what I found in my new travels. I was like, oh, okay, we are doing some new things here. So I think it's important to definitely acknowledge them on that side as well.
Agree. All right.
All right. As I was listening, I came up with a couple more pieces of advice I've taken down as I've worked on my construction site. One is know your drawings really well, not just architecture, but landscape, civil, mechanical, how these systems work together. If you didn't know or weren't as familiar during design, you'll get so comfortable during construction, because those are the types of questions that will come up that you will have to know how to answer. And if you don't know how to answer, don't feel shy to ask your consultants, because that's what they're there for also. So you may think like you're by yourself or that you're on your own, but you do have that team, maybe not the same dynamic, maybe not, the same exposure as before, but they're there also to answer those questions with you. In regards to knowing your drawings, I think when you do go to the construction site for site visits, go prepared. I usually bring an iPad or some sort of tablet, and I put in drawings, like parts of the drawing sets that I know I'm going to have to look at, not the full PDF, because that could be, you know, over 100 megabytes and it'll take forever to load at times if your tablet's not working. Happened to me before. So I had to beef up my iPad, but go there knowing with your drawings so that you could reference them during the site walk, and also go to take notes. As Carol's mentioned before, I like using OneNote when I go because it's a cloud-based application that I could, whatever notes I take on site will come with me when I go home. It'll sync up, and then I'll remember what I saw. Maybe if it was a quick note or a quick question I took down, I'll remember it when I get home, and I'll know how to put together my report in a more thorough manner. And yeah, and like everyone has mentioned during the presentation, is be yourself. Don't try to be someone else when you're on site. The way you communicate and your personality is what will work to your favor, because that's how you build the relationships and the trust, not just amongst your consultants, but also on site, and also the respect that you do deserve from the GC and the subs. So with that, let's open it up to questions. Either you could use the raise your hand app, or you could just put your questions in the chat and then we can address them one by one.